You are listening to Beyond the Verse, a Star Citizen podcast. A show dedicated to Cloud Imperium Games, Star Citizen, and Squadron 42. Whether you fight, explore, unite, and or trade, we bring you news, updates, interviews, reviews, and analysis. So sit back, relax, grab yourself a pour of Radegast, and join us as we go Beyond the Verse.
Launch sequence activated.
Hello, friends, and welcome to Beyond the Verse, Star Citizen podcast. I'm your host, Sulyce. In today's episode, we are covering a little bit of the progress or the status, wow, of our show. It is the first of the month, so we'll go through how we're doing, how the community is doing. We'll get into polls and the community spotlights or from the community segments, and then straight into the subject matter of today's episode, and that is what we're calling the Pulse of 323. A little bit of a play on words. They just announced or they just teased the Mirai Pulse. We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk a lot about 323 and what is now making it to the live PUs whenever it does launch and what has been dropped off. So a really good conversation there. We will end the show with the Star Citizen monthly report. So we'll save the literature for the very end if you have the stamina to last that long with this podcast. So I hope this finds everybody well. It's been a really good last 7 days. If you recall from the last episode, we successfully predicted that the EPTU would have 323 for at least wave 4, but it ended up going across all waves. So anybody who has access to the experimental PTU can get their hands on and get their feet wet with 323. Is it a good idea? I don't know. We'll get into a little bit of that feedback, but it was nice. It was nice to be able to hang our hat on or put another feather on our hat for a successful prediction for the PTU or the EPTU. But that begs the question of what happens next. And I don't know if I have enough information to confidently predict what's going to happen next, because usually what I do as a host of this podcast, I go to the subject matter, I go to the source, I go to CIG materials, and I try to gain that knowledge of precedence of kind of historically what has happened. But the EPTU is fairly new. We don't have a lot of experience with EPTU. And so is the next step for 323, is it the PTU or does it go straight to the live PU? So I don't know if I'm in a position to make a prediction here and now for what happens, later tonight. If I were a betting individual, I would probably say it'll go into the PTU probably tonight over the weekend to get us through to the beginning part of next week. But we can expect it, in my opinion, we can expect it live in the PU this time next week. That'll get us right in the middle of May, right before Invictus launch week. I believe that has been the sentiment or the vision that's been kind of spoken about by CIG, by the community. I think that's a pretty fair bet. There's a couple content creators who think it's coming out live like in the next couple of hours. A lot of emotional debate on whether or not it's ready. And again, we will cover a little bit of that feedback as we watch Inside Star Citizen together. But who knows? I'm usually really good at sitting here and telling you, hey guys, more than likely you can expect to see XYZ in the next couple hours. I don't know what's going to happen, but let's actually get into the podcast, and we always go into our From the Community first. And because this is the first part of the month, welcome into May, the April monthly show review. And again, I say this every single time, and I'll continue to say it. This isn't about the numbers. It's not about, hey, look at Sulyce, look at the host of Beyond the Verse, look how good we're doing with our podcast. It's more about you as a listener are part of our community. You as a viewer are part of our community. So this is as much about you and the family that we have created together as it is about what I'm producing on the back end. So as of April 24th, wow. As of April 2024, we have yielded 22,400 listens across 55 episodes. So 55 episodes, 22.4K listens, 1.8K hours viewed on YouTube. And we are officially across 60 countries. That's 60. Not 16, not 16, 60 countries. And again, I say that piece is probably the most important. The listens can be recurring, they can be frequent listeners, but that 60 countries baffles me. So if you're listening outside of the United States, I love every single one of you. Welcome in. I hope you find this as a inclusive, fun, family show, etc. Now, I wouldn't call Org Night family fun. So a little bit of a plug real quick. We've taken kind of a hiatus away from Org Night podcasts, given the community, the Soul Provision Org, kind of room to be themselves, adult conversations. And sometimes you don't want to have to broadcast or produce for people to be natural. Well, last night we did this really fun event called Rumble in the Void. It was a fight club. So shout out to Groza organizing it. Phenomenal job. But we took 13 of us, got on the Elegance of the Void, which is our org's 890 jump. And we fast traveled from Surfam Station to Pyro Jump Point, stopping right in the middle. So we wouldn't come across anybody else. Oh man. We recorded it. It's on podcast as a bonus episode. Go listen to it. It's freaking hilarious. amazing night. But good Lord Almighty, the desync, even out in the middle of nowhere, the desync basically made it impossible for us to do anything. It wasn't until we were 3/4 of the way through Org Night when we were like, hey, Arena Commander, get into free fly, multi-crew, and you have an hour and a half, 90 minutes, you have an hour and a half to conduct your Org Night. And that's what we should have done from the very beginning. It was smooth. We actually got to, progress and get through our tournament bracket once we got into Arena Commander. That'll be discussed a little bit also with 323 because there are custom lobbies, and that will help with this conversation. It'll help with orgs that are trying to do something above and beyond just the persistent universe. But back to the April monthly show review, just a couple more highlights. So over on YouTube, we have 582 subscribers. Thank you to every single one of you. It's not our main effort, but if you want to see this ugly mug and see some of the interviews and interactions we have with other individuals, obviously YouTube is the place to go. 481,000 impressions, 34.7 thousand views, 1.8 thousand watch hours, and that's across 24 countries. Our main social media platform for conversations is over on Twitter. We have 1.5 thousand followers. It's actually like 1,460, I think. But the interesting part here, and I'll be fast, I know we want to get to the Star Citizen material, but I've been doing social media, or I've been doing content creation for, 6 to 8 years. We can get into that conversation later. I took a little bit of a hiatus, but from that 6 to 8 years, what I've learned, and I haven't learned my lesson, but the moment you post anything off subject, no matter what it is, you lose followers. And it's crazy to me. I can almost measure how many followers I lose when I post something about my kids. So my son is blessed with this opportunity. It's a minor league baseball game, the Round Rock Express at Dell Diamond. He was selected among 11,000 people in the stands to run from left field to right field. He's like racing this fireball that's on the back, on the outfield wall. He has to like race it and beat it. And it's between the first and second inning, so everybody's there, everybody's engaged, everybody's watching, and I'm really proud of my son who usually clams up in like social environments. The dude took it like a champ. He got out there on his own. I had to leave him. I wasn't allowed on the field, so he left me with the staff and went down and ran. He lost by like a split second. It's incredible. My heart goes out to him. But anyways, so I posted that. I shared it on my Twitter, on the Beyond the Verse Twitter. And man, I tell you what, I went from like 1,470 to 1,450. Like I lost 20 followers, and that's almost prescriptive. Like every time I post something off subject. So that's interesting. It's a weird dichotomy where I'm trying to relate with my community at my podcast. I try to throw personal flair in there, and I try to break down that wall between content creator and consumer. But it's just an interesting conversation. I'm not going to change. I will never change. You're here because of me. You're here because of the community. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. It's just that number baffles me that the moment I post something that I think y'all will appreciate, just people just fall off. Back to the show review. On Twitter, in the month of April, we had 149.6 thousand impressions, a 4% engagement rate, 3,000 likes, 331 replies, 474 retweets. So the point being, if you want to get engaged in the conversation with me, with our community, Twitter's the place to go. TikTok, we grew to 733 followers. Thank you for everybody over there on TikTok. I used to be a lot more active. Now I'm really only posting like, here's what happened in This Week in Star Citizen and just the highlights from the podcast. I've kind of backed away from that endeavor. Not to get into political or social news, but we all kind of know what's happening to TikTok or what could potentially happen to TikTok. So I'm putting my eggs in other baskets in this current moment. And then our redheaded stepchild, Instagram. I don't know why I'm still doing Instagram, but 225 followers, which is fine, just zero engagement. I mean, I don't understand Instagram, and as much as I research and try to dive into the point of it, it's like a yearbook, and it's just a scroll through pictures. So I'm trying to figure that piece out. But anyways, so I wanted to share that. I also wanted to take a second and I wanted to celebrate the monthly supporters. Sorry, if you're watching me on YouTube, it's raining outside, so my beard is like frizzing. I'm getting mustache in my mouth, so I'm like scraping away at my mouth as I'm talking. I wanted to take a second and celebrate our monthly supporters. So if you, these are individuals that are donating their disposable income or a portion of their disposable income to this show. You can go onto Spotify, and on our profile page or on our show page, there's a link that you can click that says support this podcast. It'll also be in the show notes, but these are, again, individuals that have chosen to support us financially. And this money, 100% of it goes back to the show. All right, now I'm saving up for a Rodecaster Pro 2. As support for the Go XLR is gone. So the moment there's an update or the moment Windows 11 doesn't support Go XLR, I'm without a means to record. So I'm saving up for the Rodecaster Pro 2. You're helping me do that, so thank you so much. And for these individuals, it is Will Spicer, Dustin Thames, Dakota Riley, Brandon Lawhorn, Marcus Roy, Jacob Hardeen, Captain Trips, Dreamer of Days. So thank you so much to the 8 that are supporting. We also have 11 over in Discord as a Discord supporter as well, who support that endeavor. So for the community, extra soundboard slots, extra GIFs and memes and pictures, and better sound quality in org chat. And there's a lot of those individuals as well. So thank you so much for that support. All right, let's go to episode 55. Again, after every single episode, we ask a poll, we ask a Q&A. So this was last week's. And so the Inside Star Citizen was about Arena Commander in 323. And I asked the question, what excites you the most of Arena Commander, or for Arena Commander in 323? I put the new maps and racetracks, number 1, engineering gameplay, custom lobbies, which in hindsight, my vote goes to custom lobbies, and experimental modes. And so in first place, engineering gameplay with 85.7%, custom lobbies in second place with 14.3%, Nobody voted for maps and racetracks, and nobody voted for experimental modes. So engineering gameplay is where it's at. And that's indicative of the community loving game loops, right? And that's so sad that 323 is basically a cosmetic patch at this point. All the game loops, except for a few, all the game loops are delayed to 321 or 323.1 or 323.x. Sadly. So we'll talk about that again here in a couple of minutes, but engineering gameplay, everybody's yearning for that. They're loving what they're seeing right now in Arena Commander. You can go and play it in the EPTU. Not a bad mode, not a bad model. Moving quickly. And the poll in Twitter, I asked only one. Again, I've kind of broken away from that in this last couple of weeks because of the slowdown of material getting into 323. All right, so Inside Star Citizen happened on Thursday. The lead up to Inside Star Citizen, I asked the question, how do you think 323 will roll out next? Will it reach the regular PTU first and then the PU? Or will it go straight to the PU? So this alludes to what I was talking about a couple minutes ago. Like I said, if I was a betting man, it would still go to the PTU next, but it would be very short. And then it would probably, in a couple of days, 2-3 days later, it would go into the live PU. So my prediction is it's still going to take that intermediate step to go to the PTU and then to the live PU. If it doesn't do that, then what is the point of the PTU? What is the point of the EPTU? I think there's, and the Evocati, you got to throw Evocati in there as well, which they're up in a roar because I guess they're jealous that it left too early and it went to the public, too fast. And I say jealous, I don't mean to start anything like that's, I don't mean it in a negative or derogative way. What I'm saying is like they wanted it in the Evocati a little bit longer for it to cook, for them to try it out longer. But it didn't stay in Evocati long. It went pretty quickly to the EPTU. And so there was this sentiment of like, man, they're rushing it. It's going to be a 318 all over again. And so you had this hyperbolic reaction, emotional reaction from a lot of the content creators that we're not ready, as CIG is going to mess this one up. Could be true. It absolutely could be true. Because right now in the EPTU, it's not a smooth experience. It was good for like wave 2 and a little bit of wave 3. But in this current moment, I don't know. I've had some pretty game breaking experiences over there. But let's get to the responses. So 64.5% believe it's going to go straight to the live PU. So again, at that point, just get rid of the PTU or call the EPTU something different. And so the rest, 35.5%, think it's going to go to the PTU first. So I'm not going to ask it at the end of this podcast. It's already kind of been through the ringer. I would love to still hear what you think though, and this is the place to do it over on Twitter. Let us know. Like, let me know what you think, how you think it's going to roll out. So, awesome. So I'm going to move kind of quickly from the community, and let's get into This Week in Star Citizen. So I'm sharing my screen for those of you on YouTube. I'm going to take a drink real quick. But hey, applaud me because I remembered to remove Space Tomato off of my overlay. I had realized after I recorded and after I saved everything, and actually after I produced it or published it, that I had left Space Tomato's nameplate on my screen share. So here you go. So I remember to take it off. All right, stand by. Oh my God, that's hot. Ow. You ever do that? You ever forget like what drink you have in your cup? For some reason I was thinking a cold drink and I have my mocha latte. Good Lord, that burnt the crap out of me. All right, This Week in Star Citizen. That really did hurt. Okay. We like to... Oh, that's funny. We'd like to extend a massive thank you to everyone who has taken the time to hop into the PTU, they meant EPTU, to kick the tires of the upcoming patch. Your participation has been instrumental in helping us address known issues, and it has paved the way for the team to develop additional fixes currently in the pipe. Alpha 323 is now available to Wave 3 testers. At the time of you listening to this podcast, it's all waves, with more waves opening up soon. The community's enthusiasm for SitCon has truly been mind-blowing, with premium tickets completely sold out and only a couple hundred general admission tickets remaining. We've already shattered the attendance records of all previous Star Citizen events. Our team is currently deeply entrenched in CitizenCon preparations, and we're excited to bring you what's shaping up to be an unforgettable event this October. See you in Manchester. So there's a couple of things that came out in the last couple of days that kind of hints at, and I hate to say this, and I told myself I wouldn't, but there's been a lot of talk about Star Citizen 1.0, like the going live. And so you'll hear in the roadmap roundup, you'll hear in the monthly report that there, a lot of mentioning of this Star Citizen 1.0. Some think that CitizenCon is going to be based around Star Citizen 1.0. I don't think we're close. And this is the White Knight speaking. This is Sulyce from Beyond the Verse saying that. I don't think we're close to a live. I think they're talking about it because they should. That's the North Star. That's the goal. So they absolutely should be talking about it. It should be in monthly reports. But to see what's happening in 323 in this current moment, to see 4.0 kind of being up in the air. Is it happening in this summer? Is it kind of being pushed to Q4? I don't think 1.0 is right around the corner. Now, I think things that need to happen first. We need to have Squadron 42. That needs to drop first. The solo player or the single player game needs to probably drop first before the multiplayer does, in my opinion. Really no other reason other than that's my opinion. So Squadron 42 needs to drop, but then we need all the tech pillars. So everything through dynamic server meshing. And we need a working pyro. So 4.0 with pyro is going to drop. There's going to be issues. There's going to be dynamics we need to work through. There's going to be tech limitations or experiences that we need to work through. Maelstrom, right? Maelstrom is the technology that destroys environments around you, buildings, etc. Like, what is that going to work? Is that necessary? So I think there's some tech issues that we need to overcome. I think it needs to be in a stable state after Squadron 42. So I'm not thinking that there's a Star Citizen 1.0 like live until 2026. And that's coming from me. I think Squadron 42 is 2025. Let's say Star Citizen Live is either late 2025, if not 2026. And I maintain that CitizenCon, its theme will be Squadron 42 because of next year's release. So you're going to hear some things in this podcast. It's going to make mention of Star Citizen 1.0 Live. I prefaced it with this long narrative. Okay. So the bullet points for this week, obviously Monday, this week in Star Citizen. Wednesday, we had the monthly report. The Squadron 42 monthly report, which we read in the next episode. So next week, we have the roadmap update, the roadmap roundup. Inside Star Citizen, which is the patch dispatch 323, also discusses the Mirai Pulse. And then today, after this podcast, you're going to have the RSI Weekly Newsletter, Star Citizen Live, and Jump Point April issue. Those are always fun to dive into and read and get your hands dirty with. Always really good information that comes out of that. So, before we get into like the news and where we're headed, I want to give you the latest and greatest of the patch notes coming from the EPTU. So this is fresh as of yesterday. Again, sharing for those of you on YouTube. This is yesterday, kind of mid-afternoon. This is all waves. I did not see any change or any difference. What I do see is a consolidation of the notes. And usually, like I said, I base everything off of precedence. I base everything off of going straight to the source. Usually when CIG consolidates their notes like this, it's because they're about to do the next iteration. And so that's why I'm saying PTU this weekend, live PU Thursday or Friday of next week. is because of this. I think it'll go PTU. There's gonna be some more patch notes, more updates, but this is why. So as you can see, across all waves, server infos, the EPTU channel, testing and feedback. Again, here's the consolidation. 2 bullet points: testing the stability and testing new features. Well, duh. Like that's every PTU. Every EPTU, like its stability and features. So there's a list of known issues. You can read that on your own time. It's issues that you can go on to Twitter and hear 1,000 people bitch about, or you can read it here in patch notes. They did fix some bugs, some elevator issues at Port Tressler, AI desyncing during combat. So first off, desyncing just in and of itself is atrocious. And then fixed an issue where they were unable to drink full bottle contents in one nonstop action. Cool. I don't drink in game. Be very clear about that. I don't drink in game. There's too many medical beds. I don't really have a point or a reason to drink, so I would have never known that had I not read these notes. So there you go. By the way, user Inkwell. I don't normally do this, but there's a user with the username Inkwell who responds to every single one of these patch notes and calls out the differences between the last patch note and this patch note. Super helpful. And I just want to plug user Inkwell. Thank you so much for doing that. That's kind of one of those unsung hero moments. Okay. Roadmap, Roundup, Inside Star Citizen, and then the monthly report. So it kind of feels like the rest of this podcast is going to go pretty quick, but I want to respond to most of this, if not all of this. Drinking that hot drink has destroyed me. I just screwed myself. Okay. Roadmap Roundup, sharing my screen. So usually I do the Roadmap Roundup right into the monthly report. They're kind of one and the same, but I'm going to break them up by throwing Inside Star Citizen right in the middle because Inside Star Citizen is about 323. So the Roadmap Roundup is a succinct summary. I know that's redundant. It's a summary of what has changed basically coming out of the monthly report and going into the roadmap. So this again is an overall consolidation. So here is the part that people got freaking crazy about. In the progress tracker, it reads, as you might have seen in the recent letter from the chairman, our development team's in the process of outlining the necessary tasks to achieve Star Citizen's full 1.0 commercial release. Why? Like, why do you have to put that in the progress tracker or in the roadmap roundup? I mean, duh. Like, your producers, developers, your product program, portfolio managers, whatever that you have in your staff, this should be their North Star. They should have been doing this for the last 12 years. Moving towards a 1.0 commercial release. So having to spell it out in a roadmap roundup, I don't know what they're trying to achieve here. Now, if they're putting pen to paper and they're laying out timelines and deadlines and they're committing, which I don't recommend CIG ever do, as any backer can attest. If they're doing that, great, awesome. But I don't know, calling out that they're moving towards a Star Citizen's full 1.0, I think that is where you get the overly copium, and I hate using those terms. You're kind of not misleading. You are inadvertently driving dissent. Because what's going to happen is okay, 323 is going to come out. It's going to be kind of rough. Not 318, but it's going to be, painful. 4.0 is going to come out a little painful. Citizen Con is going to come out. Talking Squadron 42. And this is going to be one of those moments where they're like, man, I thought they said something about 1.0 releasing soon. And that embeds itself in people's morale for the game. So I'm off my soapbox. I personally would have not maybe put this in here. I would have surprised the community if I was going to produce any timeline, but it is what it is. So moving back to the article, well, our production schedule While our production schedule is still in progress, we intend to share a portion of it with you soon by updating the progress tracker up to the end of 2024, with more to be shared later in the year, more than likely CitizenCon. We're nearly finished and aiming to provide more details in the coming weeks, so stay tuned to the roadmap for more information very soon. Yeah, I don't know. I don't necessarily see the point of that. Let's go into the release view. So Arena Commander Grav Royale, another game loop, another thing people were excited about, is being removed out of 323, which is interesting because the Mirai Pulse, a Grav vehicle, I would imagine would have driven a lot of that engagement in the Grav Royale. Let's read it. The team encountered a critical issue with this game mode that requires additional testing. For the time being, we're removing this card from release view until it is resolved. I also commend CIG, don't rush things. If there's critical issues, don't throw it in front of the community. Like, this is perfect. I think the decision making is perfect. It's just another game loop that's been removed from what we were expecting. But what is committed, I'm dying on video, I'm sorry. What is being committed in 323, distribution centers, the Vulkan graphics API support, water simulation and rendering improvements, which by the way is stunning. If you haven't been able to get into the EPTU yet, you are in for a treat. Volumetric clouds updates, image upscaling for DLSS, FSR, and TSR solution, and then the replication layer update. Super exciting. I think we all know what the replication layer is at this point. The clients, or us, aren't directly attached to the server. We're actually directly attached to this replication layer, and then the replication layer is attached to the server. So as servers drop in and out, we don't experience it because we're on the replication layer. That is supposed to be the static or a more protected like platform. So super excited there. That is going to happen. I don't think that's any difference. I think we were expecting that, but it's moved into committed. We will see it when 323 goes live immediately. Speaking of Inside Star Citizen, let's go straight into it. So I'll come back and share my screen in just a second when I got the video up. But this is Jared Huckabee, as always, about 14 minutes worth of video. We'll pause it and react to most of this. It's also a little, I say a little frustrating. It's not even that emotional. It's not. It's you expect to see a lot of 323, but they go into distribution centers, which are 323.x. The personal hangars, instance hangars, cargo elevators. Like those are all being delayed. So there's a little bit of a nuance there. So this is basically an Inside Star Citizen for all of 323, not 323.0 to expect in the next couple of days. So I want to caveat that because I think that's an important distinction. Let me get the video pulled up real quick just so we are all on the same page. Good Lord. Stand by. Here we go. I got to fix something real quick on my system. Very cool. I'm usually really good at already having all this pulled up. All right, let's go. Share my screen for those of you on YouTube. Let's get into it. And again, I will pause periodically and we will respond together.
Alpha 323 is just around the corner, and that means it's time for Patch Dispatch 323, where we run down all the new features and content included in what could be Star Citizen's biggest patch yet. So let's just jump right into things.
And there are a few things that are written on the screen that I'm going to have to pause and read for those of you on podcast.
And we'll start with life in the first person. And in 323, life begins with a newly expanded and revamped character customizer, letting you create more dynamic and representative avatars than ever before. A new beginning that will continue to evolve with additional features and options in subsequent patches. Now let's discuss all the major...
So before we go into that, I've thoroughly enjoyed the customizer, the character customizer. It is very well done. And what's funny is Space Tomato a couple episodes ago mentioned like the music that plays while you're creating your character, and it has ended up sticking with me. Like, it's weird how that happens, but now every time I recreate my character with every patch update for the EPTU, I hear that music, and it is almost like it's almost canon. Like, it's almost like I don't know. It's almost like it brings you home with Star Citizen, and it's a fairly new experience. So I don't know. I like it. I like it a lot. But the amount of details and control that you have in this P0, this initial release, is very impressive. Like, you can have white roots and the tips colored. You can put I don't know, 20, 30, 40 different hairstyles or facial hairstyles. It's a really, really good selection, knowing that later on you can throw tattoos on, piercings. So having that roll out soon is going to be amazing as well. So I think CIG has hit that out of the ballpark. It is one of those things that you're going to do in the first, I don't know, hour of play, and then you won't probably touch it again. So I know, I feel like I'm being so negative this episode, but I don't know. I love it. It's great. It's probably not going to be what people hang their hats on for 323 because of that, though. It's going to be quickly adopted, quickly rolled out. But there is nothing more exciting to me than having an org night, being with all your friends, 14, 15 of us, and everybody looks different. Everybody looks different with different haircuts, different colors. That is exciting. So again, CIG, thank you so much. The inclusivity and everything else is spot on. Very good.
Improvements that directly affect your character, starting with the new Mobi-Glass. Now, unlike Eobard Thawne, we've finally killed the Flash, as the new Mobi-Glass finally makes its in-universe debut with a revamped layout and new features like the health and contract manager apps to help you stay alive and find work respectively. It also...
Now that will be something you experience every single second that you play. The Mobi-Glass, the user interface, which they haven't gotten to the lens update yet, but that aesthetic or that experience is going to be something you experience every single day, every second that you're playing. They have also done a very good job there. I think it's color. I don't know. I think the colors are fine. It's just very mundane, but I don't know. I would change it. I don't know if I would, because too much color or too much deviant what am I trying to say? Too much diversity or, different colors is going to be detracting from the game experience. So having it just like this faded blue is probably the right answer.
Includes the long-awaited and hotly anticipated new Maps app, combining the new star map and interior map experiences into one unified interface, with an entire host of new functionalities designed to help you find your way through landing zones, space stations, and the entire verse as a whole.
My favorite thing about 323, the star map and the area map, 100%.
Also touches the new lens and visor updates with a great new mini map that appears now in the upper left corner.
Absolutely.
Your days of not finding your way around are soon behind you. Unless you're a specific person who won't be named. You know who you are. Of course, when you're traveling through the verse, Alpha 323 has a whole new array of improvements to how you'll interact with the world around you, starting with a revamped player interaction system that's more nimble and customizable than ever before.
So about this, I cannot break the habit of holding down the F key. So if you haven't, maybe it's your first time listening to this podcast, or you haven't been able to really dabble into the EPTU, the user interface, the main change is this tapping of F. You can look around your screen, and if something's interactable, there'll be the F key that kind of flashes above the item, and your default action that you've assigned to it, you just tap F and it'll happen. So opening up doors, you walk up to a door, and instead of holding down F and moving your cursor and then actually clicking your mouse to like open the door, you walk up to the door, look at the door handle or the pad, and then you just tap F, and that will be the interaction. I, to this day, have not broken the habit of holding down F in order to make something happen. So that's gonna be an interesting learning curve for most people.
Default item actions that let you keep your customizations exactly how you want them. A new shopping interface that streamlines the experience so you can get what you want and go.
So I need to do that. I have not experienced that yet. I keep seeing in the patch notes about this new shopping experience, and I'm like, I need to go do that. But the moment, if I'm able to get out in space, the moment I do, I'm like, I'm gonna look at distribution centers. I'm gonna go try to find Merrick and Copians. Like, I'm gonna go do all these other things. I have not actually experienced the physical shopping interface changes. So I have nothing to say about it other than it looks cool on this video.
And new looting screens to improve your alternate and more violent shopping experience.
That'll go a lot faster when you learn it.
Speaking of which, there's lots of new improvements to the way you bring first-person murder, death, kill to your fellow citizens in the verse, including scope magnification updates, ammo repooling and backpack reloading, ADS tuning, and the new dynamic crosshair on specialized helmets so you can fire straight from the hip in-game, and not just from the comfort of your YouTube comments.
Well done, Jared. Get him.
And your first-person life doesn't end there, because Alpha 323 allows you to take the fight to zero G with the newly revamped EVA mechanics, changing the way you traverse the verse outside your spacecraft and vehicle.
My second favorite thing out of 323. So number 1, star map and the area map, so maps. Number 2, EVA. The EVA is so much better, and you cannot truly get it or feel the difference until you do it yourself. 100%. You can see it on video, you can watch this video and you're like, oh, okay, I see where it could be better, but the moment you do it yourself, game changer, absolute game changer.
And speaking of your spacecraft or vehicles, the Alpha 323 season also includes new ways to house, load, and launch your ships with the new personal persistent hangars coming to ArcCorp, Hurston, Microtech, and Horizon in a 323X patch this quarter, which also includes item banks to grab your stuff, vehicle platforms to raise your ships, and freight elevators to load them before takeoff. Of course, once you take off, you'll find a new way to fly with master modes and a new way to fight with precision targeting and weapon mount and gimbal changes, meaning space combat's got its next evolution in Alpha 323.
Everybody's favorite topic, master modes.
But what if flying in the PU isn't enough? Or you simply want a safe place to practice the changes? Well, there's a whole host of new maps and experimental modes in Arena Commander 323 that we covered here in detail just last week.
Yep. Arena Commander is going to be a great place for orgs.
Then back in the Persistent Universe and down planet side, you'll find the new distribution centers with a variety of mission and gameplay opportunities for all manner of playstyles, and the added dangers of the Merrick and Copian, Star Citizen's first fauna being added to Alpha 323. And how are the Merricks dangerous? Just wait until they add poop mechanics.
Disclaimer. Rich says there are no poop mechanics for birds. Disclaimer. Jared says, yet. Rich says Jared is not the decider on this. Jared says...
Then there's also exciting new technological improvements like our initial implementation of Vulcan, new DLSS, FSR, TSR upscaling, and the new water rendering and simulation tech that will make Star Citizen look even better than ever before.
Okay, so the Vulcan API settings, when it first came out to test in the EPTU, was horrendous. It was very difficult, made everything really bad and choppy, whatever. It is now changed what we see in Star Citizen. I think you are in for a treat if you have a rig that can run it and whatever. But when it comes out, for those of you that are just switching over to the Vulcan API for the first time, it is a gorgeous change or difference in comparison to what you're currently playing right now. So get excited. It's just something else to add to the weight required of your PC, but it'll help with the rendering. It'll help with what you're actually experiencing on screen. So very excited about that kind of tech that has gone in, that's going to benefit the client or benefit the gamer immediately.
And then under the hood, with the new replication layer split in 3.23, players no longer connect directly to the game servers and instead to the hybrid service, which hosts the replication layer, which then itself maintains the state of the game. This now means that the loss of a server can be recovered from without the players being disconnected from the game or losing their progress, and sets the stage for multiple game servers sharing a single hybrid replication layer in the server mesh coming online with Alpha 4.0. So all in all, there's more things in Alpha 3.23 than you can shake a stick at, but there's actually even more, as this branch not only includes all the hangar and cargo improvements we discussed earlier, it also contains the next iteration of Invictus Launch Week, which is actually 2 weeks because we're all super extra here. And we'll introduce a handful of new ships and vehicles folks have been waiting for, as well as one straight-to-flyable that's available with 3.23 launch. So let's learn more from...
Hold on. Let's go back.
Super extra here. And we'll introduce a handful of new ships...
Introduce a handful of new ships
and vehicles folks have been waiting for, as well as one straight-to-flyable that's available with 3.23 launch.
As well as one
so
straight-to-flyable.
From John, Ben, and Alberto.
So after watching this already yesterday and posting and reading and all that crap, I skipped over. I completely missed that call out that they're going to be announcing several ships that we've been looking forward to. Okay. All right. So I might snip that and put that into a social media post, because now that leads me to believe that the Polaris is... So the Zeus will probably be announced. The Polaris will probably be announced. The Apollo series, the Medevac and Triage, could be announced. Like, there's all of these that are right around the corner that could absolutely be announced. I still continue to this day to think that by the end of the year we'll have the Idris. The Idris is damn well ready to fly. I mean, in the raid, the Xenothreat raid, we should be able to board it, according to Elliot Maltby. So I'm pretty sure the Idris is right on the corner as well. So that actually... Sorry, I'm having a moment right now, real time on podcast, of like, that's a great realization that we're not just going to get this Mirai Pulse. We're going to be getting some more news and hype and some other things to get really excited about. So, okay, great. Let's get back and learn more about the Mirai Pulse. A little bit of a prelude or a preview into the Mirai Pulse. When I first heard about this, and I first heard about it because in the EPTU, these were available to test in Arena Commander. So it wasn't a leak, and I don't talk about leaks in this show or in the Soul Provision Discord. But when I first saw it in the EPTU, I reacted to it, and I initially hated it. Another Gravlev vehicle, another bike that is for a very small amount of people that play, and I discredited it, and I called it an Invictus Launch Week, CCU token upgrade. Transferring lifetime insurance, for a ship down the road. After watching this video, though, and I'll tell you why throughout the next couple minutes, but after watching this video, I might actually consider buying it in-game. I'm probably not going to spend real money on it, but I'll buy it in-game whenever it's available because of its utility, its versatility. I'll stop there. Let's go to the video and you'll find out why.
The Mirai Pulse is Mirai's entry into the ground Gravlev bike category.
Is a new racing vehicle from Mirai. It kind of builds on some of their kind of core values as a brand of MISC, focusing more on performance. It takes a lot of inspiration, should we say, from the Razor, and really kind of shrinks that kind of thrill of speed down.
So the role of grav-led vehicles in the game, and especially hover bikes, it allows you to, you've got a mission in mind, perhaps you don't want to risk bringing your ship or larger vehicle right up to it. It allows you to park some distance away, out of radar range, out of line of sight, and then infiltrate stealthily, speedily towards the target location. And of course, as features like weather comes online and more diverse and hazardous biomes such as heavily dense forests, grav-led vehicles, bikes will become more useful as ways to get closer to your target without damaging ships.
However, there's no storage. So for like SU boxes specifically, and I'm pretty damn sure storage regardless, because this is a very dumbed down or very minimalistic bike. So as much as I agree with John Crew, as much as I agree, and you've heard it on this podcast, landing 1,000 clicks away, 500 clicks away, whatever, in a vehicle, and getting the rest of the distance through a ground asset, I would still want to take a vehicle that has the ability to put boxes on the back end. Because there are some times you're doing a mercenary mission or a bounty hunting mission, or I wouldn't go with like a delivery mission, that you are handling boxes. But there's other missions that it's like, surprise, you need to take this box to finish out the mission. You need to take this box to this location, Bravo, in order to get credit for this mission. You're like, oh, damn, I thought I was just investigating something. So you don't want to be caught, 1,000 clicks away or 500 clicks away from your ship when all you have is a bike. So know your mission, know your situation. If it's a merc mission and all you're doing is executing and leaving, by all means, this is a perfect asset for that. But I'm still thinking more along the lines of like a gray cat. I'm thinking, I don't know, like an Ursa or like the Lynx is probably too big for doing something like that. So I'd probably go with a gray cat for my use case.
The Pulse is our smallest ground vehicle. It was a intentional design choice to make something as small and compact and as fast as possible. And Mirai as a brand sort of fits that performance ideology.
It needs to be small. It needs to be small, fast, agile, and really that just kind of gives us a much greater opportunity of how the player...
This picture, I'm so sorry to interrupt the video. I took this picture and put it on Twitter. It's actually doing really well, 2,000-3,000 impressions. But this is a great picture of its size, right? So you have an Aurora, you have a Ursa, Dragonfly, the Nox, you've got one of those gray cats, and then even smaller than the gray cat is these bikes. So it's a really good picture of its scale and how it can fit on several different types of vehicles. And it's actually this picture in the next 5 minutes. It's this picture in the next 5 minutes that sold me on at some point getting this bike as an asset, because of its size, because of its utility.
Players can really experience that sense of speed on one of our ground vehicles.
So the Pulse comes in two flavors. We've got the base version, which comes equipped with a custom laser Gatling on the front. And then you have the LX, which is the dedicated racing version. It loses that front weapon, replaces it with a big intake, you get extra thrusters. So out of all the grav-led bikes, it is one of the most agile there. The reason it's so small and compact is we wanted it to have the most compatibility with all of our other vehicles in game. So by being compact, it allows you to pretty much stuff it into every single...
So you just saw them stuff 3 into an MPUV, right? like that is, or an Argo, I think it's MPUV, whatever the cargo one is. But they put 3 into the back of one, and now they're putting one in the back of an Ursa Rover. So yeah, this can fit in most, if not all, vehicles.
No other vehicle in existence in the game.
Size-wise, I think it's just over 2.5 meters in length, so it is tiny.
This is inside of an Aurora.
A tiny bit longer than 2 SCU of cargo, so it is very small.
I'm sure there will be 1 or 2 vehicles out there where it doesn't fit in, maybe such as the MPUV, but across the...
What? Hold on. Maybe such as an MPUV, isn't that what...
Very small.
I'm sure there will be 1 or 2 vehicles out there where it doesn't fit in.
Isn't this the MPUV? Right? Like the Argo, well, maybe the MPUV is the personnel one. Like, I don't know. I'm getting them all mixed up at this point. But the Argo cargo version, I think that's what we're looking at here. There's 3 of them in the back. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I could be mixing up a lot of the vehicles at this point. Who knows? It's early in the morning on Friday.
Maybe such as the MPUV, but across the board, it's designed to get in a lot of other vehicles.
And if it can fit in an Aurora, it can probably fit in every vehicle.
My favorite thing about the Pulse series is just the way we've integrated all the components together into that incredibly tight chassis.
That is well done.
We tried to kind of fuse the idea of a sports bike, but almost, I think they're called like naked bikes. Yeah. So we wanted it to feel still quite aggressive and quite kind of chunky, almost like a bobber. But we kind of really wanted that sleekness that Mirai and the brand as a whole kind of is known for. One of the, I guess, biggest kind of challenges that our like Alberto and the concept team really had to work on, which then turned our production artists and kind of gave them a few things to scratch their head against, is really fitting all of the ship items and the components into a vehicle of this size.
It is well done.
We never did anything so small. New problems come along. I decided to take the same approach of a motorbike. We tried to insert most of the components in what will be the fuel tank, and with this approach we kept the same shape, the same main shape of a motorbike. So we have very fluid and soft shapes, palindromal, which means that you can flip it and it looks kind of the same, and then we added the front part just to connect the semiotic of the racing vehicles to this one. We were really tight.
It almost looks as though they took a dragonfly, split it right down the middle. And like the left half is one of the pulses and the right half is the other pulse. Right? Because like if you take the dragonfly, it's got those 2, like the front end has those 2 spokes or the 2 extensions, right? It's very dragonfly. That's kind of what this feels like, because each one of these pulses have like its own extension in the front. Like they said, the base has that Gatling gun and the LX has this intake. So it kind of looks and it feels like half of a dragonfly. I don't know if that helps. Real world example, I'm going to butcher this, but the BMW speed bikes, it's like the I'm going to screw this up, SR 2000 or S2000R, I don't know. Anyways, whatever that is, it's a very well-known, very popular BMW roadster bike or speed bike. It kind of feels that way. It has the same aesthetics or cosmetics as well, for those of you on podcast. It is an actually beautiful vehicle. It was never, my dissent was never about it not looking cool. It was that we already have 4 or 5 of these: the Nox, the Dragonfly, the X1, right? And now we have this. So it was more just kind of redundancy. But I think there's the use case here is that it is so versatile. You can put it, and you're about to see it, not to spoil the video, but you're about to see it inside of an underground facility, inside of a bunker. So imagine taking these into a raid, right? The raids that were teased at SitCon last year. I think this has a purpose.
To the size, because it can fit in a container, and that created a huge challenge with how the components move when you actually have to expose them. So that dictated actually the shape we ended up with, and I'm really happy with the final result, because you couldn't say probably that inside such a small vehicle there are so many components.
I love seeing it go across water.
Ground vehicles, the Pulse it trades durability for speed and agility. So compared to say like the Dragonfly and the Hover Quad, which are relatively tanky,
and the Hover Quad,
not as good there.
Forgot about that.
The Nox is more tense and definitely bigger. Mirai tries to simplify things a bit. Less is more. We try to have a different approach compared to most of racing vehicles and communicate speed through mass and not through aerodynamics, although we keep aerodynamics in consideration for this kind of stuff.
In terms of the Nox and the X1, it is right up there in speed and agility. So they all trade different speed attributes in terms of straight line speed, cornering speed, rotational velocities.
Here's the video of them on the bike going down into a bunker. This is what sold me on it.
And the bespoke weapon on the front of the base model is our first laser Gatling in the game, so we're looking forward to see how that performs.
And it's a laser Gatling, meaning infinite ammo. So, yeah, I'm probably going to be taking the minigun, if you're a Fallout fan, taking the Gatling gun with me like I was in a super suit.
So that's the Pulse coming online in 3.23, 2 variants of it. Looking forward to seeing all the different scenarios you're going to get it into.
Did I say it's small? It's really, really small. And goes really, really fast.
Okay, that's good.
See the memes coming.
So what did we learn this week? Well, hopefully we were reminded of all the great work the combined Star Citizen and Squadron 42 teams have been working on that make their way to the persistent universe in Alpha 3.23. That, like any and every other feature in Star Citizen, the work doesn't stop here and will continue to iterate and evolve in subsequent releases. And that the Mirai Pulse is this teeny tiny hover bike that can fit into all sorts of places and may just be John Griffith's and James Kay's worst nightmares when players try to squeeze them deep down into the distribution centers. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for letting us share the process of game development with you, and we'll see you all here next week.
Yeah, I do want to take a second, and I want to echo Jared's sentiment. It is easy to sit behind this computer, have a podcast, talk to Space Tomato, respond on social media, have a little bit more of a critical tone this podcast than I normally do. It's very easy for me to do that, but I would be in the wrong if I didn't just take a second to say thank you to the Squadron 42 teams that have moved over and have helped translate or transfer that experience into Star Citizen. This might be a cosmetic patch. It might be something that is more on the face, like face value, than it is game changing. Maybe that's debatable. That's arguable. But the work that was put into this, I can't be thankful enough. It actually feels like a game that deserves to be in 2024. And we are a major step closer to that Star Citizen 1.0. So thank you. Thank you to every single CIG developer and producer that is out there doing their thing. There we go. So there's my little White Knight twist. Again, it's easy to shit on what they're doing. It's easy to sit back and complain, oh, I'm gonna go play Fallout because Star Citizen is slow and it sucks right now. Cool. You can have that emotion. You can, but it doesn't take away the fact that there's an amazing team that is working their asses off to get something in front of us. They have timelines, they have deadlines, they have skulls, they have goals, just like any other business, and they're making it happen. And I think we're in for a treat when 3.23 drops. There's a lot of content regardless. Some new stuff like the fauna that is also coming. So if you're going to stick around a little bit longer, we do have the Star Citizen monthly report we're going to go through like we do every month. If you're going to go ahead and take off, which again, it's not for everybody. It is very in the details and the minutia of the progress of Star Citizen. So if you are taking off, love every single one of you. Thank you again for watching and being a part of this community effort. For those of you hanging around, let's get going. Let's see how well my voice stays here for this experience. Here we go. Star Citizen monthly report. Sharing my screen for those of you on the tubes. This is actually a little bit longer than last month's. So again, I'm going to read this fast, only stopping when I absolutely, feel like I have to. I'm going to talk at you. I'm going to skip quotes, just the details. Here we go. The AI features. Throughout April, AI features put significant effort into the Alpha 323 release, specifically the Copian creature that will be found across planetary surfaces and in caves. New features added for creatures include ground alignment tech, which allows them to appear correctly situated when moving across the terrain, and the ability to attack in formation. The attacks themselves require motion warping and melee attack technology to connect with the player. The team also put a lot of effort into ensuring that these functionalities work well across different environments. AI tech. Last month, AI tech focused on planetary navigation mesh, with the version implemented recently receiving significant improvements. Firstly, they removed generation limits over planet latitude, which gives stronger coupling with planetary terrain patches, allowing the nav mesh to generate correctly over the planet efficiently. They then improved generation response at lower frame rates so that movement over planets in non-ideal performance scenarios results in acceptable nav mesh generation times. The multipath code was then optimized to execute faster, which will result in quicker generation of paths into, out of, and between usables. The team also enabled failure detection code in the movement system component to identify and fix situations where NPCs were standing on usables or out of the nav mesh. Another key feature worked on was the Boyd's system used for the new merit creature. April saw the devs improving network synchronization and extending the system to support audio triggers from different agent states. Several optimizations were also made to the overall code. Significant time was spent verifying multiple parts of the AI system after evaluating the EPTU optic profiles. For example, the team optimized some of the navigation code involved in the destruction of navigation links and navigation volumes when larger outposts stream out. The Pathfinder was also switched from running using background jobs to batch jobs. The main pool that serves requests was split into two to better serve multipath and standard path searches. Moving the calculation into batch jobs allows an increased number of calculations, which provides much faster results and utilizes more CPU time where available. These jobs are lower priorities, so they can always provide space for more urgent calculations and continue to work across multiple frames. This should result in quicker response times for NPCs at lower frames per second. In parallel with supporting the Apollo subsumption editor, AI Tech also worked on a new UX design for their internal tools. Progress was also made on the spaceship combat behavior, which is planned for release at Alpha 323. All NPC fighters now use this behavior, which involves them using limited ballistic ammo rather than infinite rounds as before. Finally, for AI Tech, they implemented point defense cannons that will protect capital ships from incoming missiles. Animation. In April, the animation team worked on various creatures, including 2 predators and prey animal. They also spent time polishing player movement in space and when prone, which will be live in Alpha 323, and implemented hit reactions for when AI is out in the open. Break. They worked on various creatures, including 2 predators and a prey animal. So they didn't say the Merrick, they didn't say the Copian, and this prey animal is brand new. So is it 2 additional predators and a prey animal, or are the 2 predators referring to what is already out in 323? So cool. We have more fauna coming. Awesome. Characters, art team. In April, the character art team began work on 2 specialist armors, reworked the utility armor, and supported requests for the character customizer. They also continued working on creatures. The character concept art team continued developing specialist armors and completed handoff sheets. The hair team kicked off new hairstyles for Alpha 4.0 and undertook R&D on fur. The ship's art team. The ship's team progressed. This is one everyone's favorite. Everyone loves this section, so here we go. The ship's team progressed with the RSI Zeus, continuing with the beauty and polish stage. I don't think the Zeus is going to be ready for Invictus launch week to be flyable in Invictus launch week, but it is right around the corner. We are very close to it. I can see it going on sale again, which it should, because there's a combat variation for Invictus launch week. It should go on sale again, but we're very close to the Zeus. Back to the article. The cockpit is now in gray box complete, which established the standard for the remainder of the ship. The habitation area is receiving the last elements of polish, including resolving the ceiling and personal storage areas. The cargo room ceiling had a pass, and the devs began finalizing the walls. The mess hall is nearing completion, and as is the central hallway. Work on the exterior progressed well too, which now has a significantly increased level of detail throughout. The team are currently going through all other sections to ensure they have the same level of detail, LOD. Ships also started looking at lighting, including a pass of every room and entire exterior. Following this, it will be outfitted with proper fixtures. So all of that was about the Zeus, different levels of, status updates on where we're at. Again, it all reads like we're very close to it. So there we go. And then they mentioned the Anvil Legionnaire. Not gray box, but white box complete. The Anvil Legionnaire is now white box complete, though requests were made to improve its usability when boarding hostile vessels. The devs are currently exploring options for collapsible cover built into the boarding tunnel. Elsewhere, resource network work was finished for 10 ships, while legacy updates were made to 3 additional ships to support a new selection of paints. All right, audio team. For the upcoming Alpha 323 release, the audio vehicle team completed their first milestone in overhauling the ship audio experience with new thruster sounds, which is rolling out to all new ships. They are now also using a shared and extensive set of game parameters that modulate different layers in a variety of ways. This, paired with a more extensive matrix of generic assets designed to fit manufacturers, classes, and sizes of ships, results in a much more granular and interactive experience for the player while giving every brand a clear sonic identity. This is supported by bespoke sounds made individually for every ship to give them all a unique flavor. Finally, for vehicle audio, the devs introduced a very early state of manufacturer-based soundproofing. With this, each brand will have a unique soundproofing profile heard when players are in first person to further improve immersion. The new thrusters and audio features were rolled out with the Anvil F7A Hornet Mark II and will be utilized on every new ship going forward, with the team converting older ships periodically. The audio environment team polished the first ambience pass for distribution centers while continuing to develop new systemic ambience. Although this new system is still early in development, the team was able to add it into the distribution centers, improving ambience for players at these locations. Alongside this, the team finished their pass on the new features for Alpha 323, including wildlife. Then you've got the community, and this is no offense to the community team. I would love to work with the community at some point in my lifetime. I love the community team. But I think we have a lot of experience with the community. It's what we see through social media. So I'm going to start kind of skipping over that. It's recapping what we've already seen. Triggerfish happening in April, etc. So I'm going to go straight over into the core gameplay. That's no offense to my beloved friends on the community team at CIG. Core gameplay. In April, the core gameplay pillar closed out features and prepared them for release in Alpha 323. A significant amount of time was invested into polishing and bug fixing, as well as reviewing feedback from the community to improve features where possible. For example, various improvements were made to weapons, including enabling the interrupting and canceling of backpack reloading and ammo repulling via actions like weapon swap, sprint, and melee. Support was also added for hit marker sounds, while recoil patterns are now the same for tap firing and holding the fire button. ADS, which is aim down sights. ADS mouse sensitivity is not scaled down for higher FOVs anymore, and weapon bandwidth usage was improved. For jump points, the team enabled new fail states if a jump drive detaches or stops functioning, and added tunnel push force from the edges of the map to help players stay on course. They also implemented the first pass of procedurally generated tunnels from design parameters, including randomness to tunnel shapes for variety. For the resource network and engineering, the team implemented a throttle that manages power in one SU segment based on the updated UI design. Additional item power range modifiers were added, which enable extra behaviors currently used for heat generation. This entered optimization for eventual release. For the life support and room system, the team implemented filters that degrade over time, with the life support generator ceasing to work once all are used. Gas propagation now uses accurate positioning within rooms, while atmospheres will equalize differently depending on whether they're high or low atmosphere environments. The technical requirements for crafting were scoped out with design, and room system documentation was updated to enable other teams to better implement their work. April saw continued work on Maelstrom and the radar and scanning feature. Planning continued for the transit refactor, and fixes were made for various analytic events not reporting correctly. For Arena Commander, the team began refactoring the spectator module and player components. They also updated how Arena Commander uses comlink notifications and completed a pass over various game modes and awards for Alpha 323. Changes were made to Pirate Swarm's final wave, which now uses 2 Idris capital ships. Gun Rush now supports multiple weapons lists, controlled by badges, that can be randomized from all enabled weapons. VoIP and mute-unmute were added back into the Arena Commander as well. Further development was done on the Contracts Manager, with the team providing code support for cargo hauling missions. Quote, or, end quote, missions were added back in, where players can choose between objectives, and general bug fixing was done. Reputation-based hostility was further worked on as well. Alongside several issues and improvements, a new neutral zone was added. This is a special restricted area that all players have permission to be in, with NPCs ignoring reputation relationships and criminality and reacting neutrally to everyone. However, access will be revoked for any non-justified hostile act, with everyone else seeing that person as hostile and attacking accordingly. To regain access after hostile actions, the offending player will need to exit the zone and wait a set amount of time before entering again. Remaining inside when hostile or entering before the allotted time will completely reset the timer. For cargo, core gameplay progressed with freight elevators, item banks, and persistent hangars. In-game branding. Last month, the branding and vehicle teams worked closely to create brand identities for upcoming and existing vehicles within the game. They also continued to develop an in-house tool for all manufacturers, from ships to signage. This will be a versatile and invaluable tool for everyone working on the game, and lead to the unification of the different brands across the entire game. Interactables. The Interactables team completed their work on fire extinguisher recharge cabinets, including both high-tech and low-tech versions. These will be placed in hangars for convenience and aid in shipfire gameplay. Industrial cargo containers had their final art passes, including branding and signage, giving them more credibility as container storage. Lighting. Lighting spent time in April polishing distribution centers before moving on to instanced hangars and freight elevators, with the aim of making every interaction an engaging event. Locations. The locations team spent April closing out features for Alpha 323. For example, the Sandbox team completed DCs, adding the last elements of polish before shipping. The team are looking forward to players getting their hands on these locations, and will be looking for feedback that they can take forward as distribution centers evolve in the future. Okay, I have to do this. My undergrad is in English and history. Then I have a master's in advanced international affairs. Okay, whatever. My undergrad is in English. When you say the team are, that's actually grammatically incorrect. It is. Because when you say the team, you're referencing a singular unit. It's a unit, it's a grouping of people. When you say like the squad is, the company is, you don't say the company are, right? You say the group is doing this. So when you say the team are, it's the wrong it's the wrong choice. So every time, not to be nitpicky, I don't want to nerd out and like correct. It's just when I read it and I stumble over that phrase, it's because my mind is not able to make that transition. So it should be the team is looking forward to, because you're referring to a singular unit that's made up of multiple people, yes, but it's a singular unit. The team is looking forward to players. Like you would say the company is, the group is looking forward to. All right. Back to the article. The Sandbox team is currently finalizing the last few outposts going into Pyro for Alpha 4.0. Whilst, that's another word I can't get over. Whilst. Just say while. The Sandbox team is currently finalizing the last few outposts going into Pyro for Alpha 4.0 while supporting other location teams with their tasks for the upcoming patch release. Oh man. The Landing Zone team finalized art for the Cargo Initiative and helped out other teams on Alpha 323. I have a feeling someone's going to respond to me doing that. All right, mission design. Last month, mission design continued to polish content for Alpha 323, including Xenothreat and fauna-related missions. They also made quality of life improvements to missions, including missing persons and supported content for distribution centers. Work was done on the new contracts manager to ensure it has all the existing functionality alongside improvements. They also made the commodity update journal entry a lower priority notification. Thank you. So real quick, last night was hilarious. We're right in the middle of desync. We're like, again, org night. We're doing the Rumble in the Void. We're trying to kick each other's ass, right? There's a lot of chaos. Desync is happening, but it wasn't desyncing the massive, like, a quarter of the screen being taken up by the commodity update journal entry, right? It's that flash that says commodity update, click XYZ to open it up. So that's just funny to see this here. Back to the article. They also made the commodity update journal entry a lower priority notification and reassessed what missions notify players when they're available. Further bug fixing was done for Overdrive Initiative 2. The team then used the extra time until the cargo updates to add additional high-quality content and further polish the cargo hauling and kill and collect missions. Narrative. April was a very busy month for the narrative team, who worked hard preparing for the Alpha 323 patch. This included crafting new distribution center missions, creature hunting missions, polishing the new UI layouts, and reworking hint text alongside bug fixing. Looking ahead, the team helped with the upcoming Invictus launch week, making sure everything is ready for players to visit in-game. This was a particular focus of the narrative design team, who looked at the NPCs attending the event. The team also spent time working on cargo gameplay, providing UI and mission support. Additionally, the narrative team did a lot of planning and pre-production work for Star Citizen 1.0. Yeah, whatever. Detailing the scripts and assets that will be needed for its release. This includes looking at legacy work done in the game's early release and analyzing how best to update it to meet current standards. Another batch of lore went up to the website as well, including the Mirai portfolio, an excellent batch of new Galactopedia entries, and a Whitley's Guide to the Drake Vulture. Almost done, everybody. Online technology. After several sprints, the online services team completed their refactor of the social services backend. This involved porting the services to gRPC, as well as making updates related to server meshing. Online services also completed work relating to EAC, anti-cheat, in preparation for enabling the enforcement of sanctions. This is currently going through the first round of QA testing. The team also supported Alpha 323 by bug fixing and helping triage performance issues. Over the past month, the Live Tools team worked to ensure compatibility between the Network Operations Center in HEX and the modifications being made on the services side for version 323. They're also implementing new modules to assist different types of users. Additionally, the team continued to enhance I almost stumbled over some grammatical issues as well, but it's actually right. Additionally, the team continued to enhance other internal development tools and provide support and maintenance. R&D. R&D spent April supporting Alpha 323. For example, the half-resolution render mode was updated to accompany the new cloud rendering improvements and the introduction of ground fog. This mode serves as a good compromise between quality and performance and will be superseded by the temporal render mode, which is still a work in progress. Improvements include the cleaner rendering of silhouettes and foliage, less blurry results from orbit, and better low discrepancy sampling. Due to these improvements, the decision was made to alter the very high spec settings for clouds to use the half resolution render mode and increase the number of ray marching steps. As a result, players will see more consistent and less noisy cloud rendering, similar to the new photo mode quality setting, at reduced GPU cost compared to the previous very high spec settings. This will hopefully allow more people to enjoy the new high fidelity rendering improvements in-game. Additionally, further support was given to the rendering team to roll out PSO caching and request collection to eliminate PSO cache redundancies and certain shader flags for vertex position and texture coordinate modification. This is to minimize the number of shaders and PSOs needed to run the game. Support was also given for various Vulkan issues that were revealed during PTU playtesting. Longer-term work progressed on the temporal render mode. All confidence metrics, which are used to decide whether to keep history data after reprojection, now also factor in scene motion and depth. The temporal render mode was also tested against the various temporal upsampling solutions supported by the renderer. Tech animation, tech design, UI, FFX. Here we go, tech animation. The tech animation team continued to generate and implement new head assets to the DNA gene pool and are not far from completing the initiative of 40 heads per each gender. Many devs are currently dealing with the complication of players and NPCs putting on and taking off clothes live in the engine. Additionally, the team are intrinsic in the creation... There it is again. Additionally, the team is intrinsic in the creation and implementation of new creatures for both the PU and Squadron 42. They're also involved in work toward consumables and the setup of foodstuffs, with the team aiming to guide this initiative and promote time-saving workflows. Lastly, they continue to support Alpha 323, ensuring content is integrated, tested, and ready for players. Tech design. Tech design provided general tech support for Alpha 323, including fixing bugs affecting doors and fuel tanks not exploding in the new distribution centers. For ships, iteration was done on weapon balance and AI following director feedback. For the latter, an easier AI behavior was created for use in very easy, and introductory missions. A call to action prompt was added to the elevator panels of multiple ships, and an issue preventing players from getting out of bed in the MISC Freelancer was fixed. For Arena Commander, work continued on the Resource Network game mode, including enabling doors without power to be openable, but not closable, to prevent players from being trapped. UI. In April, the Montreal-based team focused on the cargo feature and worked closely with core gameplay on the Resource Network mandate, which included getting wireframes signed off. They will begin creating mock-ups soon. In the UK, the UI team added the final touches to the new UIs for the visor, mobiGlas, and maps. They added the final missing features, such as the chat window and law widgets too. Updates were also made based on player feedback, such as reducing the hologram effect on the HUD and bringing back differently shaped quantum travel markers. The team spent time polishing visuals and bug fixing as well. And last, VFX. Last month, the VFX team focused on bug fixing for the upcoming patch. This involved playtesting the game to find major issues that needed solving immediately or identifying smaller issues that were safe enough to fix without risking creating other bugs. They also worked closely with the graphics and Planet Tech to ensure the supporting effects for water were working as expected and not too expensive. They also worked on a variety of vehicles for an upcoming release. You did it. You made it all the way through the patch notes or the monthly report. It is. It's always a mouthful. It always takes a long time. My voice always dies, but it's also like a contribution, or it's a a nod over to all the work that every single team is doing in Star Citizen. So again, taking a second to say thank you for your hard work. This was an amazing report, hinted at some more fauna, hinted at some vehicles that we haven't seen that are coming through the pipeline. It was really awesome to see the fixes kind of on the front end with the renderers, right? And how we're going to see Star Citizen through the lens of a different game almost. It's going to be a lot more beautiful, a lot more quicker. Going through highly dense clouds in very high mode without it tanking, the performance of your PC is going to be huge, because there's nothing like flying through clouds and then you come out of the clouds and you're facing a mountain and you're having to react because you couldn't see it. It is a very fun experience. So just wanted to, I'm always going to do this. I will always read word for word. I will save it for last in case this isn't your cup of tea, but it is very important to the development of Star Citizen, and it helps me with my predictions, which arguably are right most of the time. Well, I hope this finds everybody well. If you want to become part of the conversation, you can do so by emailing us at contact@beyondtheversehq.com. You can respond to our Q&A and poll over at Spotify at the end of each episode. Join our social medias at /BTV_cast at most of the platforms. And then YouTube, we do our video replay over at YouTube, and that is at BTV_cast. Links are in bio. You shouldn't have an issue finding those. Yeah, join our in-game organization, guys. Soul Provision. We are accepting everybody. Like, we're going to continue with Thursday night org nights, and they are amazing and they're engaging. It's a great group of people, right? Great group of people, all ages, all different types of walks of life. Join us. It is a shitload of fun. You could do so at www.robertspaceindustriescom/orgs/provision. Again, those links are in bio. Like I said, I hope this finds everybody well. Safe travels as you traverse beyond the verse. Take care, everybody.